Okay, we'll go ahead and get started, and Carlos can let people come in as they come in. So my name is John Lazarczyk, and I'm going to be your host today for Using Zoom in the Age of Remote Learning. The moderator is going to be Carlos Reyes. He's going to moderate the chat. He'll help answer any questions in the chat. And I've also set aside some time at the end for another Q&A. But let's go ahead and get started. So first of all, we just realized that this is an unprecedented time and things have changed so much in the area of teaching that we really commend you and thank you all for what you're doing. I found that I stole this from a San Bernardino presentation, and I thought it was appropriate because look at that. I'll teach you now on Zoom. And of course it has the, Dr. Seuss type of rhyming. So again, we really appreciate all that you're doing, and we're hoping that you can take a lot away from this presentation today, because this presentation is this could be the future of what's happening in education for a while, right? This could be the way we're going to interact with our students. So everybody doing okay? Thumbs up if you're doing okay. How y'all doing? There's that emoji again. Love it. Hopefully you're more on the right side than the green side, but as my wonderful colleague says, you have permission to feel any way you want. So if you feel a little bit over here on the left side, that's okay, right? So, and I want to give a shout out to Butte County. They're the, as a good teacher, I stole a lot of the stuff that they were doing, and I just repurposed it into kind of make it more towards a teacher working with students. Okay, so I want to give Butte County a shout out. They did a great job being one of the first ones to do some kind of a Zoom training. Okay, so I do have some norms, and as I'm going through these, I want you to think about when you Zoom with your students, what kind of norms are you going to have for them, right? So think about that as we start this training. So obviously, please mute your mic if not speaking. I actually, in the settings, which we'll go over later, I had everyone come in muted. And this may be a good thing to think about if you're going to bring in 13 kids at the same time, that it's muted. So oftentimes you may hear stuff in the background. It gets kind of noisy, right? But you're all able to unmute yourself. Carlos, like I said, is going to be monitoring the chat feature. Please use that. If you have questions or just comments or maybe some ideas that you have, the ways that you have used Zoom that have been successful to you, and share it with the group. Not only will we moderate the chat, but we're going to save the chat. And that's going to be part of the after session feature that you guys will all get. So you'll have a copy of the actual chat with any links, comments. We're really excited about that. So use the chat quite a bit. Down here in the lower left, when you start to chat, I'm realizing that even though it does have a little name, that may not be your computer that you're using, and it may be a totally different person behind that I'm looking at. So use your name and district as a starting point in the chat. There's an example there. And just kind of imagine, I know it's hard, but imagine that this is not a virtual meeting and all the etiquette is appreciated. So again, I want you to think about what this might look like with your students, and I'm going to give you some tips later on, okay? So our agenda today is really want to address the safety issues of Zoom that came to light about a month ago, to the point where the FBI was investigating what is going on with Zoom. Then talk about settings, how can we host and schedule meetings, how do we invite students, there's different ways to do that, tips to run a successful meeting, and then if you have any technical questions as far as how do I join Zoom and all that, please save those for the end. We're gonna block out some time at the end. So hopefully we'll get to those questions at the end if you do have them. And then Carlos will actually walk you through some technical things that he's much more adept at than I am. So this is our agenda. I'll move on. So what is Zoom? As you probably all know, it's a remote conferencing product that combines video conferencing, chat, online meetings, mobile collaboration. It's really and by no means am I endorsing Zoom, but I think it's very popular right now, so most people are using it. But I have got to, ever since schools have been closed and we've been shut down, I've got to, work with Zoom a lot, and I really think it has some great features. So we'll be sharing those with you. But a little bit of a backstory. So overnight, Zoom went from 10 million users to 200 million users. When the school shut down, they just exploded with people joining because they offered it for free, right? And then the CEO actually admitted that, they weren't prepared, and the safety issues came up, and especially in the areas of Zoom bombing. How many of you heard of Zoom bombing before? Okay, you heard of photo bombing? Well, just imagine somebody hacking into your Zoom call, right, as an uninvited guest, and then showing content that is very much not appropriate. So this was a big thing. And so they have, what they've done is, and every time you see an underline with a different color, that's a link. There's a link from the letter from him to users of Zoom. And one of the things they are doing that I think really addresses part of this problem is they've taken all 90 of their engineers, and they're no longer working on future projects. They are just focused on getting the Zoom product they have right now to make sure it's safe for you, for your students. So I really love the response that they came up with. So what did they do? Not only did they do that, but all these things, by the way, are hyperlinked. So they've offered tons of more trainings, live daily demos, webinars that, have, because it's such a high demand now with 200 million users, they really wanted to make sure that, hey, people, before they start using Zoom, they have a pretty good background in it, right? So they've really offered a lot more trainings, but this one I really like for educators. Specifically for educators, what they did is they rolled out this guide. And again, here, this is linked on setting up a virtual classroom. How do you do that? What does that look like, right? How to better secure that virtual classroom so there isn't information being shared that shouldn't. They also set up a dedicated K-12 privacy policy, which is linked here. And if you sign up as an educator, they've changed some settings to default. The first one is the virtual waiting rooms. You guys join today's meeting, I put you in a waiting room, and you had a password. So those are two safety features to kind of protect your host, your meeting, from people coming in that aren't invited, aren't allowed, and doing some crazy things. And also, there's ability to share content, but now the default setting is right now only the teachers or the host can share the content. So a lot of safety issues have been addressed. So I want you guys to think about this. So how many of you have done a Zoom call already? Raise your hand if you've done a Zoom call with your kids, or a thumbs up, right? And I want you to think about, has this happened to you yet? Students laying in bed playing with toys, sharing their dog on the screen, sending messages to each other, yelling out to friends. My daughter's in high school, and she's been on a few Zooms, and I've seen this happen, and she's junior in high school, and they come on and they're just going crazy, right? Can you imagine younger kids coming on? So I want to, this is a true story I want to share with you. This is a cautionary tale. A friend of mine, her son was on a Zoom, and she was kind of in the background, not really paying attention, but she heard the chaos, she heard the noise. There was 13 kids going crazy. And at one point, she heard an adult voice in the background. And this adult voice was on the phone. And this adult voice in Spanish was talking to some kind of, he was purchasing something, and he was giving his credit card number, and you could hear it in the background of the Zoom call. So it's like, whoa, if you really wanted to pay attention, or if this was being videotaped, you know, they could always go back and get that information. So just a cautionary tale. Oh, by the way, this is being videotaped. And when we're done, we are going to share this videotape on our webpage. And I'm going to also send a link to you guys of the video and the chat transcript as well. So we are being videotaped, right? So that's a cautionary tale. So I really think that communication is the key. And who do we got to communicate with? We've got to communicate with parents, right? So I found an article in the San Diego Tribune back on April 21st. It was really recent. And this person, you know, usually gets suggestions and questions from teachers, and she writes articles about them. And she was saying some tips that might help you out is to email notes to parents before you even have a Zoom call, right? Give them the session time. What are the rules? What are the expectations of the meeting? Let parents know. They have to be your ally in this, is right. And then they said to mute students as they join the class until directions are given, right? And then activate the setting that prevents students from unmuting themselves. And again, these are just suggestions. You know, you guys know your kids, and you may feel, you know, very, very good about them and comfortable that they're not going to do anything crazy. Maybe you've already laid out some ideas for them, but these are just some suggestions. And you also may want to notify students before class begins of penalties for breaking the rules. And there's even an option where you can give someone a 10-minute virtual timeout in the waiting room. So the waiting room you guys were in, anytime I can put you back in there for about 10 minutes, let you cool off, and then have you come back in. So it's a great setting. Just know that you as the host, you have a lot of control. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. And I've also linked the K through 12 privacy policy again here, okay? So this is another gem that I found, and it's what parents need to know about Zoom. And this whole thing is linked. I'm not gonna obviously go through it all, but it just talks about some of the stuff we're talking about. How do we, you know, there's even the risk of phishing. People are sending Zoom links to other people, and when people click on them, they're getting information from them. They're not an actual Zoom call. So it's just warning people, make sure that the emails you're getting from about Zoom are from people that you know. So really good advice here. And the second part of that is right here. Again, these are linked. It's just a big old PDF. So you guys can kind of take a look at that on your own time. Just another resource for you guys. Okay, so obviously if you're here, you've already joined the meeting, right? But if you've not met with your students yet, that may be a little bit of an issue. So what I love about this down here is there are these bit.lys, and I'll take you there, hope you guys can see it, to a Zoom directions for students. Can you guys see that? Thumbs up if you can see my screen. College, can we see it? Okay. And then for computer users, it just tells kids what they need to do to log in, like maybe beforehand. And there's 2 pages of that. And then here is, if they're using an iPad, it'll tell them how to log in using an iPad, right? So just a really cool resource here that I wanted to share with you guys. Okay, so now I'm going to go. So just going back real quick, it's also available in Spanish, okay? All right, I'm gonna give you guys a chance to interact. I want you all to look at, take your mouse and go to the bottom of your screen. You should see controls that look somewhat like this. If you can't see them, and maybe give Carlos a shout out, we can help you. But what I want you to do is just kind of play with these for a while. I'll give you a couple minutes. I got a timer right here. You know, when you go to mute, obviously this can either mute you, but when you click on that arrow, there's some other options in there. If you're really into different kind of microphones, it'll let you set up some remote microphones. The video as well will allow you to, have different settings on there. So just kind of play with this. Manage participants should give you a a box where you can, there's some emojis there for like a thumbs up, a little cup of coffee for a coffee break, maybe a hand raise, right? The chat, the record button that's already being recorded, and then some reactions. So I'll give you guys about 2 minutes just to kind of play with all these attendee controls, and we'll come back in a few.
There is one question from Carmen asking, can the invite and share screen be disabled in the settings so that students don't have the ability to share their screen?
Yes, Carmen, you can, and when we go to the settings, that can be disabled. So the only person that can share is the teacher, right? And same thing with the invites. So yes, great question, great for safety wise, but yeah, when we get to the settings piece, we'll talk about that.
Yeah, and another question from Paige, how can I change my background? So the virtual backgrounds that some people have, where do you find those settings?
So if you go to see where it says stop video and you click on that up arrow, one of the options is going to be virtual background. And then you have to have like either a background already on your computer that you can save to it, right? And then you can change your virtual background that way as well. It's really cool. I'll show you mine when we.
Yeah, there's some defaults that Zoom provides, but I've seen a lot of posts online about making albums of backgrounds you can use in your Zoom meetings. So
Yeah.
definitely.
And there's a tip that maybe one of your virtual backgrounds is like the theme for today. I'm a science guy, so maybe we're going to talk about the water cycle. So my virtual background is a big old water cycle. Make it fun, make it interesting, but it's also a good privacy protection, especially for kids. If there is some information in the background that you don't want to see, then maybe you can kind of walk them through how they can put their own virtual background on there as well, right? So great questions, guys. I appreciate it. Okay. So just a real quick little interaction here. Okay.
And one thing here I want to mention as well is that as a host, you can clear all those little emojis that pop up. So if your students all raise their hand and you want to hit clear all, then they all get turned off. As a host, you can turn them off, or not turn them off, but lower their hand.
One thing that Carlos and I are both finding is that to teach Zoom on Zoom has its limitations, because I would love to show you my screen on the bottom, my host controls, but I can't. For some reason, won't let me do that. So that's why I had to a while back, put this little screenshot of the attendee controls. So gave you guys a little time to play with it. Yeah, and as a host, like Carlos said, you'll have different controls. You can lock the meeting, right? When you click on manage participants and it says more, you can click on lock the meeting. So like maybe after 10 minutes, nobody else is coming in, you can just lock everybody out. No matter what happens, nobody else can come into your meeting. I love that feature, right? You can mute all the kids, you can unmute them. So a lot of controls there for you as the host. Thank you, Carlos. Okay, so now I am going to, so one of I think the biggest things that when I started learning Zoom, I needed to know was my settings, right? I need to be able to configure my settings and make sure that I am being as safe as possible, right? So one thing I also love, I'm going to share this with you, is, and this is from our friends at Butte County, is here are, because I have questions all the time. What should my settings be? What should my settings be? Well, here they are. All right, can you guys see that? Can you see it, Carlos? Okay. So,
yeah, I can see it. Yeah.
So and for some reason it's not moving, but let's go down here. So you can see, and for some reason I can't scroll, but let me move this down and see if I can bring it down that way. Anyways, you can see where it says off and on, and these are really good suggestions, especially for teachers to have, preset their settings even before you have a meeting, right? So let me get back out of there. And what I want to do now is go to my actual settings. Okay, can you see that, Carl? Can anybody see that? Okay, so first of all, another thing that's really cool, here's my profile. When you mute yourself, you notice some people just have like a still picture. That's this right here. You can add a picture that, so when you mute yourself, you're still there. It's not just a blank screen that has your name on it. And so you can add an image here, really cool to, I love Kiana's because she has this beautiful smile and she's always smiling the whole time and she's engaged. So you can change your profile here. Other information here. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Zoom they have temporarily waived the 40-minute time limit. It used to be 40-minute time limit. Now it's pretty much 24 hours. So you could literally have a Zoom call for 24 hours if you want. And I didn't know this till today. I was doing some research. I can hold a meeting with up to 300 people, right? I think before, Carlos, maybe it was limited, but
yeah, but that's good. It's great.
So if I want to, I can hold a meeting up to 300 people. And again, I just have the basic upgrade account. So here's my settings. So I'm going to go through these. If I'm going through these too fast, please stop me or chat Carlos and I'll slow down. So so these are the default settings. So whenever I schedule the meeting, these are the settings that are going to always be there. I'll show you later where when I set a meeting, I can edit that particular meeting to have different settings if I want, okay? So for this one, host video. So my host video is on. So I want the kids to see my face, so my video is going to be on. And for you, I also had the participants video on because I wanted you to come in and be able to see everybody. You may not want this for kids right away because maybe you don't know where they're sitting in the house and there could be something in the background that you don't want to see. So again, that goes back to, it's real important, I think, to communicate with parents when these Zooms are going to happen. So you can turn that on or off. And all it is just a toggle switch. And it'll say your savings have been updated. It's that easy, real simple, okay? Audio type. So if a student does not have a computer but can join from a cell phone, that gives them that option as well. And of course, the computer audio, right? I have turned off the join before host. This is why it's important to do that with students, because if they come in before you and you got 3 or 4 kids in there and you're not there, who knows what could be said or shown. So this is another good safety piece to always have this off so that nobody can join until you get on the call, okay? The next 2 are always going to be off. Whenever you see personal meeting ID or PM, do not turn that on, because then there's a danger of you sharing your personal meeting ID number. Someone can hack it. So always have these off whenever it says PMI, okay? Only authenticated users can join meetings. I have that off right now because I wasn't sure about you guys. You can definitely turn this on if you're worried about your students entering. Only authentic users can join the meeting from the web client. I have that on just in case you don't have Zoom and you just want to join from a web browser. These next 2 are really important. Another layer of safety is that we want you to definitely require a password when scheduling new meetings. So as you saw when you joined this one, there was a password there, and a new one will be generated for every meeting that you host. And if you happen to have like an instant meeting for whatever reason, it also requires a password. And for any kind of personal meeting ID, I have that dropped off right now, but definitely if I'm meeting with students or a thing, I'll have that on. Also, it's important to turn this one off, because then what happens here is that you lose a layer of safety. Kids can just click on the link and join right away without having the password, right? Require password. So this one I have off for kids who just come by phone. I also had them mute participants upon entry for you guys so that you were muted, so there's not a crazy noise going on in the background. I'm not worried about my upcoming meeting reminder, but you may have that turned on. So these first are like still kind of in the basic mode, right? Now here's basic. So let's look at the chat. I have the chat on, right? But I also have the private chat on just in case, you guys are adults and wanted to chat with each other. But for kids, I probably will have that. I will have that turned off because the host cannot see any kind of private chatting going on. So if you've got two kids that are chatting back and forth, saying some things that are a little questionable, you may not know about it. And so I have that on for you guys, but you definitely want to keep that off. This one just depends. For us, we're keeping the auto-saving chats on. You may not want to have it on for you. It just depends, right? The next one is, so I can hear when someone either enters the room or leaves the room. There's a little chime going on. So that's just for me. If Carlos wasn't here and I was on my own and I heard the chime, then I would give me a notice to, I got to let somebody in the meeting, right? But only by me, okay? Okay, file transfer. You do not want kids or anybody putting files in the chat. They can put links, but not files, because then we get into some issues there. And the next two are, this was what data Zoom was gathering for each of their meetings. And so that could be some questionable things there if Zoom gets a hold of some information, so we've turned those off, right? I have allowed a co-host, Carlos. I don't know how comfortable you feel with your students being allowed them to be a co-host, but you may have that off until you feel comfortable that, I got this a student who is really responsible. I can make that person a co-host, right? I'm always showing the meeting control toolbar for me. And then this came into play in our earlier training. We want to show the Zoom windows because maybe sometimes it could block what you're trying to see. Screen sharing right now I got it on, but only for me. You can definitely click all participants if you want. On the safe side, you may want to have screen sharing just for you. And then if you do have it for all participants, you may want to click on, if they really quickly are starting to share something questionable, you can override it real quick by sharing your desktop, okay? So the rest of these are, I'm not going to get into too much remote control. You definitely don't want someone else taking control of the content. The nonverbal feedback, that was when you guys messed around and you had all the emojis, that was turned on, so you can give me some feedback. If I had to remove anybody right now, I wouldn't allow them to join, but you can definitely turn that back on if you want that 10-minute timeout for a student. This could be important for you as well, especially for students that are going on their parents' computer. Allow them to rename themselves so that their name shows up on that lower left-hand corner. Allow them to show their profile picture when they have muted themselves on the video, okay? So, any questions right now? Am I going too fast, going too slow?
There is one question from Carmen.
Okay.
Asking, can you change your settings after a meeting has already been scheduled? Would it apply to the scheduled meetings, or does it have to be set up beforehand?
You can, so we'll just go ahead and we'll show you that right now. So so here's my scheduled meeting, right? And let's just say I'm gonna save this meeting. So this is the meeting, let's say this is the meeting we're on. I can come here during the meeting, correct, Carlos? I can edit this meeting and I can change settings. You can't change them all, but you can change, I think, like the most important ones. I can enable join before host, mute participants. So you can change some settings. You can turn the participants' video off if things are getting kind of crazy. So yes, you can change in the meeting for that meeting. Great question.
Yeah, the other settings page is more global setting changes, and then per meeting you can turn off one feature for one meeting if you would like, or adjust for specific meetings.
Yes, great question. So I'm going to go back to my settings, and there was a couple more that I wanted to, So the breakout room, again, that's, that may come later on, but right now I have that turned off. Remote support, no. Closed captioning, no. Save captions, far end camera control, no. Group video, this just makes sure the video is higher quality since we are going to share it on online. Virtual background, there was a previous question about virtual background, so this allows users to replace their backgrounds, right? So the rest are mainly, now we're getting into some higher end stuff, stereo audio settings, waiting room. So this one, again, I would recommend that it is turned on and that you have all participants that go into the waiting room, and that means all participants have the option of also being sent to the waiting room. This one, join you from your browser link. We don't know you may not know what your students have at home. They may not have access to a computer. Maybe they just have the iPad, but they can't download Zoom. Here's an option for them to just join from a browser. And the only thing here is that the experience may be limited from the browser. Maybe they don't see everybody, but it's a little bit limited, but at least it gives them a chance to join the meeting. I would not allow live streaming of meetings at all. Here's some email notifications, mainly for the host, and the rest is just some other information. So yeah, when you go to your settings, when you go to your profile page, this stuff on the left here is the important stuff. So the settings are right down here, okay? Questions about the settings? Anything, Carlos?
No questions from what I can see, no.
Okay, awesome. So that pretty much is right here. This screenshot is right what I just showed you, but it kind of gives you an idea if you want to look at this later on. I can't stress this enough. Here are some other Zoom privacy rules, very similar to the other ones that I put on there. So, pay attention to these. So how do I host a meeting now? So now you want to host a meeting. So what do I got to do? So I got to go back here. So before I can host a meeting, though, I got to schedule a meeting. So I just let you know, when I go to my meetings, it shows all my meetings so this one right now is going on today. It'll show me my previous meetings. This is the one I just made up right now. But I want to schedule a new meeting. Let's say I want to meet with kids tomorrow. So I'm going to schedule a new meeting, and of course it's going to be all about science, right? They're going to have science tomorrow. And I can tell when. I can click on the calendar and set a date for when. I can put a time frame on there, right? We are getting to the realization that an hour is probably a lot of time. So maybe for your kiddos, a little bit less than that. Hour is a lot to sit through and get information. This is important right here. When you schedule a meeting, you want to refrain from using your personal meeting ID number. You want them to generate a different automatic meeting ID every single time. Again, this is another layer of protection, just in case somebody's out there looking for a way to get in. Same thing with the meeting password. Require a different password every time that you have a new meeting. And I would recommend that you require a password. Here's where you can, turn the host, the videos on or off, depending on your preference. Audio, use go both. And then here's those meeting options that you can click for this specific meeting. Enable join before host, which I did not click. I did have a mute participants on entry, enable the waiting room. And you can also record the meeting if you would like. Just be careful about that, again, because of privacy issues. And then I click save. And once I save my meeting, then I have some other options. I want to invite my students, right? So let me slide this over. So most kids don't have a calendar, right? But for us in our curriculum department, I just go to my Outlook calendar and I can invite, all the curriculum coordinators. But for teachers, the best thing to do, you see this copy the invitation right here? If you click on that, a window pops up with all the meeting information that you that you pre-selected? Well, at least the password, and then right here you can see the Zoom. All you have to do is copy the meeting information, right? And if you have Google Classroom, or Carlos was training me a little bit on Class Dojo, you can automatically paste this information in your Google Classroom. All the kids' emails are in there. They automatically get this. Or you can just do it, a typical email, open up your Outlook or whatever you use and paste it in there. And then what I usually do is I will delete some stuff. Like I will delete the mobile information to make it real simple especially for students. So they just have the link right here and the password and the time up here and maybe the top, right? And then kids can, when they get this in their email, all they really have to do is click on this link, make sure they have the password available, and they can join your meeting. Okay. So great way to, fairly easy to schedule a meeting and then invite kids, and then voila, you are the host, right? Once this meeting starts, you are the host. So let me see here, I go back to my meetings. So if you notice also, I'll move this out of the way. So I set that meeting for tomorrow for science. Well, heck, if you want to, you can start it at any time from here. You do not have to log on with those credentials that you sent everybody else. You can just start from your My Meetings page. And that's exactly how I started this meeting, and everything is cool, right? You can delete a meeting if you want. You can go look at your previous meetings. We've had a lot of meetings lately. Okay. So I feel like I'm talking a lot, so I'm going to stop. Are there any questions to schedule a meeting?
Looking at the chat, I don't see there's any questions, but I guess a thumbs up, right, to see, make sure everybody's doing good so far.
Thumbs up, everybody doing good? Awesome, cool. Okay, and like we talked about, you can tweak the settings for this meeting, right? You can add the calendar invite participants, kind of showed you that. And then you can start a scheduled meeting whenever you actually want, right? So someone asked, what can you do during the meetings? There's a lot of things you can do. On the host, you have that invite, you can invite more people. I was in a Zoom the other day, I was hosting it, and someone was texting me that they wanted to come on, and I completely lost it, and I forgot that I can invite them. I feel so bad. You can share, like we just talked about and showed you, you can share. I'm sharing you right now, my desktop. The third button, there's also this thing where you can annotate, and you can actually have a whiteboard, and you can move things around. That'll be for another training, so that's to come. You can chat with everyone or private individuals. You can, as a host, mute everybody or unmute. You can start and stop videos. You can reconfigure your settings, and you can leave or end the meeting. So a lot of things you can do during the meeting. You're not locked in once the meeting starts, okay? And then we talked about you can automatically record the meeting, or on that, those attendee buttons on the bottom, you could record once the meeting has started, okay? So these are some things that I did to get ready for this, right? A lot of people now that I see them Zooming, they have a headphone and they have a microphone, and that really improves the quality of the meeting, especially on my end. On the other end, I can really hear them better, right? I know my lighting is not the best, but you don't want to sit directly in front of or beside a light source. Really think about your background. Consider using a virtual background. So I'm going to stop share. Can everybody see me? And I am going to show you my virtual background, because I'm a big fan of my virtual background. And I got the wheel of death. It's not, oh, here it is. So there's my virtual background. So I'm a big Packer fan. So I have Aaron Rodgers in the background right here. So you can't see anything behind me.
I see a thumbs down in the...
What? Who put a thumbs down? Okay, I'm going to put him in the waiting room. So just something, and again, it's just fun. You know, Erica, she has the Charger stuff in the background. So we can have a lot of fun with this as well. Let me go back to share my screen. Not that. Sorry. Here we go. Okay. Another thing that I've had to do is I practice. I literally start a Zoom meeting and I practice. And let me show you how that's done. You can go back to your, if you see this on the upper far right where it says host a meeting, you click on host a meeting and automatically a meeting starts, but it's just you. But it's great because you can practice, you can, get what you look like and make yourself look real good. And then you can practice. One thing that I have to do better at is practice looking in the camera. I have a tendency to look at the people, and you can see right now my head is turned. I'm looking at all you guys, but it's better if I look at the camera, right? So that's a great way to kind of practice. And because like anything, this takes practice. It's not easy to host a Zoom meeting. It's challenging, right? Right, Carlos and Kiana? I mean, it's challenging to host a Zoom meeting.
Yeah, definitely.
So some warnings here. Be careful of what you do share on your desktop. I had to make sure my desktop was kind of cleaned up before today. Again, practice hosting. And then don't allow private chats. So these are some tips for a successful meeting. Tons of more resources, guys, on Zoom. I mean, they've really stepped up their game as far as making sure that if you're going to use Zoom, you understand it before you use it, right? I think when the coronavirus hit, we were learning on the fly and we had some mistakes and some issues, but now I think they've really tried to clean that up. Okay, so before we go to technical questions, are there any questions about our agenda up to this point? The safety issues, the settings, how to start a meeting, how to host a meeting, how to change anything during the meeting. Are you guys all good?
Seems like everybody's pretty good. I see thumbs up coming up.
Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. So what I asked, Carlos and I met beforehand, what I asked Carlos to do, since some of you may not know how, I'm not sure, but I asked him to, first of all, he can answer any technical questions you have, but I asked him to also kind of walk through how to sign up for the free Zoom account. So why don't I have, Carlos, would you walk through how to sign up for a Zoom account first, and then we'll answer any questions?
Sure, of course. Let me start sharing my screen. Let's see.
So as the co-host, he can share his screen.
Okay. So you guys see that? Let me see. So to set up a new Zoom account, you would go to zoom.us and you would get to this screen here. And then up here at the top right, there's a sign up, it's free button, which once you click, it's first gonna ask for confirm your date of birth. So I'm just gonna fill something in here. And then it's gonna ask for an email address. So you can add here your work email address. There's also some options here at the bottom if you want to tie it to a Google account that you might have or a Facebook account. Regardless, once you sign up, you're going to get an email to verify your email address. So this is a screenshot I took of what the email looks like. It'll say just activate your account. And then so once you click activate your account, it's going to ask you if you're signing up on behalf of a school. If you hit no, it's kind of just say your account is ready to go. But if you are going to be using it for education purposes, right? So you're going to hit yes, and then it's going to ask you to fill out some information here, like your first name, last name, your title, school, your work email address, and then there's some terms and conditions here to, agree to. And then once you do this part, then your account is created. If you are an ICUE employee, the steps are a little bit different, where you have to request an account, but this is for everybody else that's from a school district. You would sign up here for a free account.
Alrighty.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's very straightforward. Like I said, it's free. As long as you enter your email address, activate your account, and then just enter the information that's requested on this screen here, and you should be good to go. And you're all set.
Okay, so any technical questions anybody has for the good of the cause, anything? Okay, so in this bit.ly, when this is done, I'm gonna link the session video right here onto this slide deck. And I'll also link the chat transcript right here as well. So you guys have that capability. We're also gonna upload it to our ICUE webpage. You can check it there. So with that, if there's nothing else, you know what? I want to hear from somebody. I did all the talking. Does anybody want to unmute and say something?
Share their experience.
What's that?
They share their experience if they have been hosted.
Yeah, great ideas. Anybody had an experience with Zoom, good or bad, that they would like to share?
Hi, I just have a question.
Yes, Bertha. Hi, Bertha.
Hi, how you doing?
Good.
Once you schedule meetings, like recurring meetings, like all the time, will that automatically send like a reminder to the families, or I had to do that all the time?
So recurring meetings, I believe, Carlos, correct me if I'm wrong, I think, I'm not sure. I'll have to find out information on that one, Bertha. I'm really not sure about the recurring meetings.
I have scheduled that already, and I have asked my parents. They haven't been able to give me an answer, so I had to send the reminders. I had to copy the link and send it again. But I don't know if it is because I'm doing something wrong or it's not sending the reminders. I don't know.
I mean, if they added it to their calendar, I don't think Zoom by default is sending a reminder.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because I'm looking at the settings here for setting up recurring meetings, and I don't see anything about adding notifications or reminders every time it's going to happen. So that might have to be something done manually. But we can definitely check, and if we find the different answer, we'll let you know.
Thank you, Carlos.
So Bertha, just to be sure on my end, so you were sending an email to the parents? Or
Yeah, I'm sending the reminders like all the time, either text messages or through voice in Google, because I have to do it. If not, they forget.
But it did not have the link to the Zoom meeting, correct?
They have the link. Even with that, I had to still remind them like all the time.
Okay.
But I was hoping that it will directly generate it like an hour before or something.
No, Carlos is right. Because even for this meeting, I had to have my assistant make sure she sent an email out to you guys an hour beforehand.
Okay,
so with the link. So yeah, that is something that is not automatically generated. So do you use Google Classroom, Bertha? Can you just dump it in there?
I'm using, I do have a Google Classroom account, but I have kindergarten right now. So what I'm doing with my kids is only do the voice via text and the Zoom meeting in a text message. That's how I send it to my parents.
Okay.
That's perfect. That's the way we've been recommending it as well. If someone wants to use Google Voice to text, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Bertha.
I have a question.
Yes.
What if you want to record like a video and then you want to send it to students so they can watch it whenever they have time? Is there an option?
Yes. So Carlos, you can help me out. But when you record a video, let me show you.
Yeah, it's going to be in that where he was in the settings area. The recordings get posted on there, and that's what I think he's going to show you that. And you have the ability to download the file, and then you can upload it, I don't know, anywhere else, Google Drive, YouTube, wherever you want to upload it to. Zoom does have the capability of creating a shareable link. So whoever clicks on that link directs them directly into Zoom to view that recording. You kind of make it a public recording. Yeah, and here where John's showing, that's where when you record a meeting, that's where they're going to be showing. If you record to the cloud, because you have two options. When you hit record button, it's going to ask you, do you want to save it directly to your computer or do you want to save it to the cloud? if you select the cloud, it's going to be here, and that's where you can download it and re-upload it elsewhere, or create a shareable link directly from this web page.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
I
So
think that answered the question. Yeah.
no, that's great. Yeah, because what I like about the cloud, Carlos, it gives you an automatic link, does it not?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's what I like about that. So then you can send that link to your students, Google Classroom or however you want to do it. Where the local recordings are a little more challenging because it downloads to an MP4, and then we have to upload it to a Google Doc, and then we send it out that way.
Yeah, it'll be very straightforward. Once you record, you'll see the title of your meeting, and on the right it'll say a shareable link or something like that. You just click on that, and you'll get the link that you can then send to students.
And just a word of caution, it does take a while to process the videos. This, for example, this one's going to be an hour long. It'll take a while for it to even save it. And then for example, when we upload it to our Google, it takes another 5, 6, 7 minutes to kind of format and make sure it's ready to go. So it does take, it's not automatic.
Mm-hmm.
It still is a pretty cool option. Thank you for that question, Luz. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and it sends an email when it's ready. You'll get an email saying your recording is ready to be viewed or something like that. So you can also know when it's ready to be seen.
Cool. Any other questions? Okay, so if you have any other questions, here, this again is going to be on the Google slide. There's mine and Carlos's email address. Carlos is much more knowledgeable than I am, but if you want to email me, you can. So we really appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to stop my screen share again because I want to see you all. There you go. This is what's really cool. You know, Kiana was saying this the other day. The curriculum department's role is to go to districts and see teachers. And man, it is so good to see you guys, even though some of you I can't see. But this is what we do, and this is a challenge, right? To do it this way. But we hope today we gave you some good tips and some good ideas on how to make it, number one, safe for yourself and for your kiddos, and have a fun experience when you Zoom with them. I'm hearing a lot of cool stuff about teachers Zooming and the things that are happening, and kids are loving it because they can see their friends, and it's kind of getting us back to the way it used to be, but still practicing, social distancing, right? Mm-hmm. So you guys are awesome. I really appreciate today. And I don't know, I have to talk to Carlos. We may offer, depending on how this goes, I may be asked to offer another version of the Zoom training, and we'll definitely keep you guys posted. You will all receive a follow-up email with the video and the chat transcript as well.
Hey, John, this is Kiana.
Hey, Kiana.
Hey, an alternative to Zoom is Google Meet, and that's also on the professional development calendar. So if you want to see another option for video conferencing, if you're living in the Google universe, it might be another nice fit with what you're doing. So take a look at that PD calendar. I don't know it off the top of my head, but we're going to give you that option too, because we're not totally behind one or both or any. We just want it to be flexible for you.
Did Kiana get a chance to put it in there?
Yeah, it's in the chat.
Okay, it's in the chat. All right, guys. Again, I appreciate everybody being here, spending some time with us, and hopefully you can Zoom safely with your students.
All right.
Take care, guys.